Hey everyone, Xiaoyo here. I'm recording an account showcase for you guys today. Hope you enjoy it. Planning to take a break from competitive play with the start of 6.4. And I know that might sound a bit weird, but overall I'm just a bit burnt out from playing for a long time and the pacing of gacha, S-rank Valks, and everything else. And so I think this patch is a good one for me to take a break on, still enjoy the story, and then reevaluate from there if I still want to, do 2% in Red Lotus, or if I just want to stop playing entirely. We'll see. I know I don't do a lot of voiceover videos, so hopefully I don't ramble on too much for you guys. What I'm going to do here is look at login, Valk's collection, etc. really quickly, and then I'm going to spend some time going through battlesuit by battlesuit. I might ramble on a bit more there as well. So, login days. I'm at 988. Almost 1,000. I'm sure I'll get there by the end of this patch. I'm going to go right to top up. I know a lot of players like to skip to the end of these types of videos to see that, so why don't we just put it up front? Not ashamed. 191,000 crystals spent. You take that over 66, and that gets you $3,000 spent. Whew, that's a lot of money. But I think the thing is, right, I didn't spend 3,000 bucks in one sitting. I spent that over 1,000 days, and that's, 3,000 bucks over 1,000 days is about $3 per day, or about 90 bucks per month. I did the math there because I was curious, and my spending strategy was always get your 30-day crystal, get your battle pass, and I always got paladin once they started adding frags, and then I would top up, 100 bucks on various patches when there was big releases just to get everything that I could, like a PE, right, or HOH patch, or things like that. So it kind of makes sense in that context what I've spent. And as a hobby that I enjoy, I don't think it's anything outrageous. And hey, I don't have either of the two dawei cards, so basically, I'm free to play. That's a joke, but I do think I've spent, a bit less than other players of my era. Of course, there's some notable examples of lower spending players like Ryu Hayato or Darius or others, and they're very impressive. Much better players than me. So, battlesuits. Again, I'm going to kind of go through these quickly, and then come back to them at the end, because I could just spend ages talking about all of these different Valks. What you'll see in terms of ranks is I've got most of the farmables and SP Valks at SSS, and then I've got Ancient Legacy, Ancient Willpower Valks at SS or higher, and then in terms of pure gacha Valks, I've got them at S0, so things like a HOH or a PE, I've got at S0. And then of course anything that's had a battle pass, I've got some rank ups, so like I've got HOS rank up stamps, and whatnot. And so we'll come back to these more. And the other thing, right, is augments. I do have some of the augments that were useful during my era of play, but some of them I don't have, like TP here. And as we come to the end, what you'll see is the Valks that I skipped, which was one of the S rank DPS Valks. And for someone who spent what I did, these were kind of just unobtainable. You had to save for the next patch rather than rolling on any of these Valks. You can see the one that I am missing though is DA. I did skip DA on her release, but I actually went back to get her. I was coping with Flame Sakitama for a long time, and it was just so painful, and I couldn't take it anymore. So I think in one sitting I sat down and I spent 300 or 400 bucks on DA, getting her 4 out of 4 on her first or second rerun. And I definitely regretted sitting down and spending that much on a video game. Of course, I got a lot of use out of DA, and I did enjoy playing her, so it wasn't all terrible. But I think the thing for me was I'd rather save up over time and try and be more efficient with crystals than just pure top up for my playing experience. And then for this patch, I just haven't rolled the new Valks yet, and so I'll get Mei's gear on the banner. I don't know that I have that much crystals for anything else, so. If you look at elves real quick before you look at gear, I did use Blood Embrace for quite a while. I didn't actually finish leveling up her skills here though. You can see I did take kind of the most important ones though, and I just kind of ran out of Mind Stones. And then I did get Slytherin's Elegy and Fusi as kind of my first elves, and only got them 2-star. These were super useful for MA, and I was primarily an MA player in my early days. In terms of Klein, this was the first gacha elf that I really rolled for seriously to get 3-star, because we could all just tell how strong her skills and abilities were. And then Durandal was the next one here. and I didn't intend to get 4-star, but essentially my luck was so bad that in getting 3-star I was really close to 4-star, so I just got the extra card, and in the end that was quite a powerful elf to pick up. And then for Alicia, I saved up a ton for HOH the patch, and I knew I wanted to get the elf because I didn't have a good ice elf because Celine 2-star was really weak, and I actually was quite unlucky with these pulls, and I used her as 2-star for the start of the patch, and it was so weak it was quite disappointing. Getting 3-star was a big improvement. And then you can see here I did skip Tesla, Bella, Water's Edge, Siren. I could just never afford elves in that period of play with the spending I was doing. And I do kind of want to get Kiana, she's very strong, but we'll see. In terms of gear, let's start with weapons first. So I think I was saying I was primarily an MA focused player for a long time. So you can see I've got things like Positrons or Kikaku or various dupes where I kept Echoes of Paradise. And that was primarily for that MA purpose. Same thing on swords. I didn't have HOT Mei on her launch. I actually didn't get Mei until her battle pass. And so I do Talk of the Fog with Mag Typhoon for a long time in every single week of MA. That was of course in the SS era of bosses. In terms of cannons, so MA focus I had my Bri Pri, and then HOR was kind of my only Ice Valk for a long time, and so I did have her gear as well, and did get Star of Eden and Willows. And it's been a lot of fun to play HOR now that she's been revived a bit and her power level has increased. In terms of greatswords, you can see I do have 2 Sleeper's Dreams. I actually didn't get the second one until about 4 or 5 patches ago when I just had the spare mats. And I'm actually really glad I got that. It makes the last SS boss we have each week a lot easier. And of course I only have 1 Blood Dance, and I've got Anu 2. In terms of crosses, you can see the MA themes here, right? So I have my late for various budget CH strats. I've got my Hecate. I got things like Silver Reaper and Ranger's Cross. And then of course, Salvation of Sakura is really key whether you're playing Flame Sakitama or HOS or DA. Gloves, you can see I've got everything. The Feng Huang Down was recent from this battle pass, so I didn't actually have that for quite a while. And then you'll see right here at the top I've got Nuada's Max because, again, I used Huck of Fog for a long time, and that was super key to doing that. Scythes, so, one, Rita has been a great staple for lower spending players for a long time, so I have both of hers. SN was more of a luxury thing. I got SN on her battle pass with AE, and I did level up this scythe at that time, and SN's a lot of fun to play. Unfortunately, I kind of got her past her prime. And then as you can see here, I did have both Scotty and Undine, but I could never afford to level up either of these when those Valks were relevant. Then in terms of lances, BK was actually the first Gotcha Valk I rolled for, and so I do have my Fleur, I do have full BK, and that was what carried my account for a long time in Masters and early Exalted. Then of course bows, there's not a lot of bow characters, but they're all good. So I've got my level 50 and my Pry maxed bows. And then same thing for the Chakrams. Got both here at level 65. And a note on Aichan, you'll see I do have her full gear, and I did kind of decide to roll for that at the end of the patch. I just felt for a low spending player like myself that I would probably need to skip a Valk like, well, an Hersher of Finality this patch, or just future Fire Valks. And so having the support gear for Fire would be crucial, and so far I think that's been right. So I don't really regret rolling for her. So in terms of Stigmata, we'll talk through these more as we go through the Valks, but you can see I basically got a full set of all the major gotcha stuff over the last 2 to 3 years. And you also see I do have some dupes, and so things like Paga dupes, Ocelot dupes, Genyi dupes, these are all off rates just from rolling over the last 3 years. I didn't, sit and roll 2 sets of Gen E on the initial banner. I couldn't afford that, but just over time, these were off rates, so I got 2 sets of Gen E, 2 sets of Turgenev, and I got a bit lucky in that regard. Of course, I got some bad dupes, but you don't want to see those because I would have salvaged them. I think another funny one here is Holmes, because back in 2021, 2022, Holmes was on off rate on like every banner, and so boomers from that area like me have or had gotten, 3 or 4 sets of Holmes and salvaged all of it down to 1, and now it's just a useful stick set. Now that bleeds, a much more viable mechanic. Shui Jing, you can see I got a lot of dupes here, and I did use a bunch of them. That was key for a certain era of play. Liwen Hook, I did use that with my Flame Sakitama. And then as you get down lower here, you see both I got my Goemon for my Hawk of the Fog, and I've got a lot of budget stuff like Kafka, Marco Polo, Beat, Fuhua Musician. I've got 2 sets of JST. We've got things here like Picasso, Somerset, XY, Kongming, etc. And then also, I've got 2 Meis, 4 Newts. I couldn't afford a few more if I were to roll the weekly shop for it. I just don't need them anymore, so I haven't really been digging for them. I probably should get them though, just to have them. Fusi Midbot, that was for Night Moonbeam. A lot of budget things here like Clio B and Lear, Jingwei. And then also, I think I glossed over Zhongheng B. I use this a lot for my Hawk of the Fog as well. And then towards the bottom here, these are all the event Stigmata. I did collect most of them when they came up, but I like to collect things on the events when they come up, but I'm not a huge collection or achievement point person, so they're in here if they came out, but never the focus of my account building. In terms of materials, same stuff everyone's got. I've got all these extra boxes of outfits from battle passes that I just haven't opened yet. I do still have some of these Stig selection boxes from things like Silverwing or Phil V, and then some of these material boxes from different anniversaries I just haven't used yet. Stamps, I don't remember if I talked about this or not, but I was saying I would buy Battle Pass every patch, and so every time there was a top-up stamp patch, I would just get $100 of B chips then, and then save those for the Battle Pass. And so I still have all the stamps from those. Well, I used the stamps that were relevant, and I have the extras here. In terms of basic mats, not much to talk about here besides, this Neon Genesis Evangelion collab ticket. I just thought I would keep that as a collection item. I thought that was cool. In terms of farmable mats here, you can see the Boomer. I've got lots of fuel. Of course, as newer players would know, that's tough to get, but once you have everything, you don't need to spend it. And then I've got, a buffer of prior mats. I've got a lot more SC metals now than I used to because of the shop changes, but nothing crazy there. And then in terms of the event, I've of course got all of these birthday items. I really like how miHoYo has kind of switched the birthday things into letters and cutscenes over the years, and enjoyed getting those. So that's Valks and Elves and Stigmata. I guess real quick, I think I didn't look at Dorm. So you can see I have pretty much all the buffs maxed out, even with a few of the things I'm missing. And then if we look at emblems real quick, I know we're a huge emblem collector, so you can see I'm missing a lot of things. But I got stuff as they came up. And then in terms of days, I've actually been kind of slacking in Myriad a lot, so I actually don't get T100 Myriad all the time, and I don't have that many days here, and before that I was a bouncer, so I don't have built-up days. But you can see I do have 260 days on the regular Nirvana emblem. Then in terms of collection stuff, it's funny, this keychain from 2020 doesn't feel like it's been that long. And then in terms of the collection points itself, again, I was never huge on racking up collection points. I'm sure I could get more if I were to level up various things in my inventory, but it just doesn't matter to me. I think what is funny though is if we look at this 5-star Stigmata section, you can kind of really see the eras of play I was in and where my count state was at. So You can see I have a lot of this free-to-play stuff like Cleo B, Lear, Fusi, and so on. And the funny thing with the Kongming, this is for like a Homu strat with a Keepster mate where you are continuously dodging the Homu fart hitbox with double Kongming. That's the only reason why I have that hilarious strat. And then what you start to see here is, once I really got into playing and had my account fully running, I would start to roll on the new stuff as it came out. And so, past this point here, you can start to see I have all the full sets of all of these Gotcha Valks. Still missing Irene M though somehow. And then the Valks that I did skip, never got any Nyx off rates, only got the IoT, never got anything for Aponia or Vilvi. You can see for Silverwing I somehow have T and M, so I actually have her full gear, I just don't have Silverwing. Alright, I think I missed Divine Keys, so let's look at that real quick. I do have all the Divine Keys. I'm not going to click on each of these, but I do have it fully maxed out. I do have them all now. Again, I didn't get some of them until more recently, but we've made it to the end of the road on the Divine Key side of things. So I think that's good for a quick overview. I think what I want to do now is just go through each of the battlesuits. Yeah, so let's start with Kiana. Again, MA player, so I have my Triple S Night Moonbeam. I did cope with that Fusi mid-bottom with SS Night Moonbeam for a long time. Never did get to play Void Drifter here because just wasn't kind of in the era of play that I was in. And then Herrscher the Void I did kind of get as kind of a, I don't know, just something I wanted to have was full HOV, and I think I finally got her geared up on the patch she got into Elysian Realm. And I did get her to SS kind of from all the extra Valk eggs and stuff like that we've got over in the years and different anniversaries and whatnot. Then here's her Flame Scion. I do have her full gear. I think when she first released I had to use Lee One Hook. And I coped for 2 or 3 patches until they reran her gear. What was funny though is I think nowadays Lee One Hook actually scores pretty similarly to her gear, but at the time we just like the rotations weren't there and I wasn't a very good player, and so I scored a lot lower than players with her signature set. But getting better. In terms of Mei here, again, I didn't get HOT until her Battle Pass. I do have her SS1 now, and part of that is all those stamps that we got from different top-up events. Although I think other players are at SS2 and beyond, so that's why I'm lagging behind a bit there. Getting Mei was actually pretty big for my account in terms of consistency in Abyss and T100 a little bit, just because without her life's just very difficult. And you can see I do have all the sets nowadays in terms of the Genyi, the Beneros, the Handle, the New Pride, the Old Pride, etc. But before that, I used Lightning Empress Mei a lot, so you can see all these cope sets I was using. Somerset, I had to divide the few support sets I did have back in the day across multiple Valks. Branya, it's funny how many battlesuits she has compared to everyone else. Some days it does feel like she's meihue's favorite in that regard. Have everything here. I did use some of these other A-rank suits for various meme strats. You know, Snowy Cyper was used with FT Delta for different MA things. Valkyrie Chariot had a long time fracture, so you use her for some strats. And then the most recent Valks, right? Here's for the Truth has been a lot of fun to play. I'm glad I got her in her full sets. I did only get S0, and I kind of wish I'd pushed harder for S2, but I think I would have had to top up to do that, and I didn't really want to do that. And I think, again, we talked about Herrscher of Reason was the backbone of my ice for a long time, and I'm really happy they kind of gave her some buffs in the Star of Eden and Willow's set. Himiko, I know a lot of people are big Himiko fans. I guess I never really was. I got Vermilion Knight, I think, in the first month of playing. She was one of the Dorm Valks I got. And you can see I did get Might of Anu too, and I was trying to use her as a Fire Valk and kind of Masters in the early days, and It was helpful. It just wasn't super strong by the time DA came out and fire meta really came into being. And so end of the day, I never really maxed out her pry. Also from a dorm perspective, I kind of delayed her and Blood Rose, and see both of them are at S for me, and she's the next one I'm trying to get to SS, so even a 1,000-day-old like count like mine is still missing a few of these farmable things. In terms of Teresa, use a lot of these Valks in MA. SA, of course, was huge for MA, especially for 2% in budget strats with Knight Squire, or just, you know, various time fracture chains. Sukuna Rondo was used even in MA because of typing and for Salvation of Sakura. More in Abyss, though. Valkyrie Pledge I actually used a lot. She's got one of the longest time fracture skills in the game, if you didn't know, and so she was using a lot of budget 2% keepster strats, and I tried to do those, but of course lost some time points on those runs. CH, I do have her at Triple S from farming from Ancient Legacy, and I do have the full late setup, so that was, you know, what we all had to use back in the day before Airship Sentience. And I still use her a lot in those Fervent Tempo strats now in the last MA bosses we get. And then you'll see here I actually don't have Twilight Paladin even unlocked or bought out. And the reason for that is, right, I got BK pretty early on. She was on banner right when I started playing. I started playing in 3.9 on the VG patch, and by the time I was ready to roll for a Valk, it was Durandal. And so I got my BK then, and that was kind of the only strong Valk I had for a long time in Masters and early Exalted, so never leveled up my Twilight Paladin, and yeah, just had to keep up on the Durandal DLC. Actually, segueing into that, what's kind of funny is Fuhua is definitely one of my favorite Valks. You can see I have all of her suits here. And Knight Squire is kind of a Valk that everyone who plays MA really loved, but ironically, I was actually really terrible at playing Knight Squire because I always just played BK and I never had to learn how to do instant ult or evasion ult cancels and things like that. I can kind of do them now, but I'm not very good at them. And then Hawk of the Fog, again, my favorite Valk. I had to play this a ton, had to cope without HOT and had to make this work, and you can see some of the budget things I was using, like this, Jingwei, Thales, Zhang. And I'm sure I had even more budget such that I overwrote, but a lot of fun with that Valk over the years. AE, I do have her SS now. On her Battle Pass, I only got S2 or S3, I think. And I had to buy character cards that came up in the shop in the last 2 or 3 patches to get SS, and even though it wasn't worth it, I wanted it for collection. Fuhua, Phoenix. You can see I had to use this back in the day, things like Fuhua Musician, and just whatever cheap gloves you got. We didn't have a lot of supports back in 2021. Shadow Knight, I do have an SS, which I think was from Legacy, and maybe a character card or 2 from Anniversaries or whatnot, I don't remember. I used her more for lead skills for DA teams, to be honest. By the time I did get SS, SK, just either Hawk of the Fog was just as good, or other options were better. And then of course Sentience made the game a lot easier for physical. I had S0, S1 now with the Battle Pass. I'm not the biggest Senti fan, I like Fuhua better, but of course, amazing battlesuit. Rita, these 2 suits are amazing for lower spenders like me. Got a ton of value out of SPA without Mobius. I did go for SS on her because I knew that would be key, and so I got those spending event stamps. And then for Fallen Rosemary, incredible Valk from a support perspective, as well as really good quad DPS if you don't have Vilvi or some of the other options. And so I have played her with Handle a lot, with Genyi, with some of these other Stig sets, and really one of those quad options you have to lean on. For Miko, or Yai Sakura, did have to use this, Lee One Hook Thales, Runa Sakura combination quite a while. It was fun. I did enjoy some of the strats, but man, they were painful. In terms of Colin here, I do have SS, 6 Serenade, that's just for the Dorm buff. I never really played her. Let's talk about FT a bit, where I did mention those double sleeper streams. The other thing that we kind of forget about was, for lower spending players at the time, FT was huge, right? She covered so many different bosses, so many abysses, different weathers and whatnot, and it was pretty free to play if you look at these Stigmata. Right, I did get Dickens because I just didn't have very much at the time. Used Kafka TM Lear, used Shui Jing, although I couldn't do that much at the time because I only had one set, so you had to shuffle around what you had. And even used her for Blood Dance, so very strong Valk at the time, even though nowadays I'm not sure if new players go for her or not. Blueberry Blitz I really only used for Blood Dance for a long time, for different kind of newt restretch strategies with HOR, and then started using her more with the second sleepers, since I can use her in MA now. Seele, again I got SN on her battle pass, and I think I got her to S2 or S3, and then I used Witch Orbs to get her to SS, and then we got a card recently, so now I'm S1. SN was amazingly strong in MA on her release for a very long time, and so that's why I picked her up in Battle Pass, because I had nostalgic memories of that. But I actually don't have Poe, and so I had to cope with these Kafka TM cask setups, and I actually did okay. You can see some of my vids, I've got some runs with that, coping with that setup, and still a very fun Valk to play, even if she's, you know, not as meta now. Durandal, definitely one of my favorites as well, besides Fuhua. Again, used BK a lot. Rolled heavily for DA. Don't do that. Don't do that at home. And then PE has been worth the money at S0. Super strong Valk, and I knew I had to roll for her just based on that imaginary core Pierce skill, right? We knew she would be super meta from that. And I do feel like PE Durandal is really fun to play, right? Her weapon switch animations are just pretty epic when you're fighting big bosses. If you really take a second to step back and just watch her gameplay, it's a lot of fun. Asuka, so I did play this Neon Genesis Evangelion collab. It was a very fun collab. Not huge on this anime or deep into the show, and so I didn't roll for her that heavily or really go for her gear. And the gear that I did have, I think I just got lucky on the banner that came up, which was T and B. And I actually didn't get Columbus M until much, much later, so I couldn't even run her if I really wanted to at the time. Unless I was going to use, you know, cope budget sticks. And then, you know, here's part of why I'm retiring. As we get to the end here, you can just see all these new characters. They all have one battlesuit each. They're all very strong. So, Fischl, I do like Genshin. I do like playing Fischl in Honkai. Very powerful Valk. Alicia, MPE was an amazing Valk for lower spenders and for players that farmed her out. Super versatile. Funnily, I actually kind of struggle on MPE bosses because my affixes, I have a lot of C damage, which makes these Alicia sticks kind of universal for FT or for BK and whatnot. But for MPE herself, crit damage is not very good, so I'm essentially missing like 3 affix lines, and I always struggle with that. Just because it just makes a tiny difference on those shield break bosses and whatnot. In terms of HOH, I did roll for her. I feel like a lot of players are kind of regretting her. She just hasn't been super strong. I kind of feel this sentiment. She is good, but it's just kind of not world-shattering like we thought it would be. Mobius had to skip. Raven was a support, so I got her. It's kind of funny to see her kind of coming back now with HOTR. Really a clunky Valk, but God, her buffs are good, so. Carol, this brings back some memories, right? So when I first played AFO 1 as a new player, I really thought Carol was awesome. I really loved the punching thing and the charge up thing, and when they brought her to being a battlesuit, I thought that was awesome. And I really had a lot of fun playing her, and I was kind of sad when they brought Griseo in, the Power Creeper, just kind of a few short patches later. Pardophilus, weakest Flame Chaser, strongest Valk in the game. What can you do? Everyone knows how strong this Valk is, and she's very fun to play too, so what can you say there either? Ponia had to skip. I'm kind of impressed how Ponia's gotten better, right? She wasn't super strong on her release, didn't feel like it was super meta changing, and I don't regret skipping her, but she's definitely stuck around with all of the lightning Valks and supports and Stigmata and buffs we've gotten. Eden, It's another SP Valk that's amazingly strong, amazingly versatile. Grisaille, of course, add a roll for her stuff, and I've got the full set. Anyone who skipped her has been feeling a lot of pain because of how strong she is. And Vilvi, of course, had to skip. I'm glad Vilvi is starting to get some buffs now with HOTR and Ichan and some stuff. I thought it was kind of disappointing just how weak she was on her release. HOT essentially scoring almost equal to her on a lot of her bosses, or FR on the Abyss bosses. So I'm glad she's getting a bit better now for the people that did spend money on her. And then here we've got Sushang. Of course, had to get her full gear and other support, and she's been very strong. Kind of sad that she's power crept AE, but I will say her gameplay experience is quite nice. And then Ichan, again, and I think I said this early on, I did decide to roll for her even though I had kind of delayed it through all of the last patch when she released, and I don't really regret that. It seems like these support Stigs and her supporting power is going to be important for people who aren't able to get full set fire teams. So that is the last Valk on the list, and I think that kind of wraps up this account showcase. Yeah, I think that's it. I hope I didn't miss anything. I hope you guys enjoyed this, and I hope you guys have a good day.
灾难随时都在发生，对女武神来说，周末和平时没有区别。